What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Well, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop culture roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from three nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.
Welcome to this Moving Panels One Shot. Let's have a nerdy little conversation. And today we begin March Madness. Every year we take the month of March and we dedicate it to one story or one character is usually what we've done. And this month it is the Ghost Rider. And so we are going to attack all the different variations of the Ghost Rider as he has appeared in televisions and movies. And we are going to start today talking about Ghost Rider in animation. He's had a few small little appearances in some other Marvel cartoons. And so that is where we were going to start. And joining me today for this conversation of Ghost Rider in animation, I have from Pop Culture Roulette, please welcome Nicholas Pepin. How are you, Nicholas?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you, as always. So how big of a Ghost Rider fan are you?
I'm a pretty decent Ghost Rider fan. It's one of the first comics I honestly remember reading.
Okay.
The library where I grew up in Memphis had a small section of comic books, and they had Batman, Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, X-Men, but like Batman and Ghost Rider were more interesting than some of the other stuff. But I kind of lost Ghost Rider for a little while, but like it's always been like, kind of a character that's super interesting to me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something that is very intriguing, especially if you are a young child, about seeing a flaming skeleton on a motorcycle when you see the cover of a Ghost Rider comic.
He's on the Harley, or I don't even know if it's a Harley, but a big motorcycle, the flaming skull, the leather jacket, the chains, he's cool. I mean, especially like you said, when you're a kid, like, what is cooler than that?
Yeah. I will say I was not. I did not immediately get into Ghost Rider. He wasn't one of the ones that I went after. I didn't have the comic books in my library. I was one that I had the tall spinning rack in my grocery store. Like that was where I found my comics was there, and I can't recall an awful lot of Ghost Rider. I maybe bought a few along the way. I do remember, and we're actually going to bring this up, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it. Do you remember when Ghost Rider was part of the Fantastic Four?
Yes.
Yeah. So I have it's like a thick red book when they, I guess, collected a lot of that new Fantastic Four with Ghost Rider, Wolverine, Hulk, and Spider-Man. That was kind of my first introduction to Ghost Rider, which I later discovered isn't the Ghost Rider that you would think it is, but we're going to get into that today. So let's go ahead and jump into Ghost Rider in cartoons. And I mean, the 90s were filled with some of the greatest comic book cartoons, mostly on Fox Kids, although I know Warner Brothers, WB came in. And then I want to say, was this Incredible Hulk show on UPN?
It might have been, but that was that weird section when like the WB became the UPN or UPN became WB.
Because you had WB, you had UPN, and then they merged to form the CW. But yeah, this was where shows, a lot of those Saturday morning cartoons like switch stations, and it was just weird that things would do that.
Well, it was in that weird transition period where Saturday morning cartoons existed.
Yeah.
And then they kind of stopped. Well, yeah, I mean, that was some of the best. But, then they stopped existing, and then they just kind of became, like, not necessarily daily cartoons, but they had that
Yeah.
block. You know.
Yeah. Ghost Rider actually first showed up on the ever classic, I guess you would say granddaddy of them all when it comes to animated stuff here, and that's the X-Men animated series. Although it's a quick cameo that you'll probably miss it if you're not paying any attention. It's from an episode called The Final Decision from March 27th, 1993, and they just kind of show some flashes, and you just see Ghost Rider go by, and
Yep.
that's all you get. Did you actually watch that? I know I sent you the list of.
I didn't watch the episode. I watched one of those
Like-
supercuts on YouTube where they
Yeah.
had all of like Ghost Rider appearances on TV.
Yeah.
And there was that 1 second clip. I'm like, well, I don't need to watch a whole episode for that.
No, yeah,
But-
no, it's not worth the whole episode just to see. Like I said, it's just a quick. Oh, look, there's Ghost Rider.
Especially for a non-speaking cameo.
Yeah,
But it's so random. Like of all the X-Men, like all the Marvel characters, why would X-Men pick that one to not like? Because Ghost Rider, you don't classically think is associated with the X-Men.
yeah, you would think he would more pop up, which I was surprised to find out. Well, not find out, but I knew. But I was surprised he never appeared on Spider-Man. Like, to me, that with the Spider-Man cartoon and all the cameos they had of other characters showing up on the Spider-Man cartoon, that Ghost Rider would have shown up.
Yeah, you would have thought.
But no, we finally get an actual true appearance of Ghost Rider on November 18th, 1995, in the Fantastic Four episode When Calls Galactus. But I'll get your opinion on this, Nicholas, but this is a really random show up.
Yeah, it really, really made no sense in the scheme of things. Like, why, of all the characters you could pull from when Galactus comes to Earth, Ghost Rider is the one that shows up and like turns him mortal for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, it shows up, does the penance stare to Galactus to make him feel guilty for all of the billions of lives he's destroyed, and then it causes Galactus to shrink, which is it's just weird. But it's so random that you've had this whole episode. He does not show up until what was it, the last like 5 minutes of the episode.
Yeah,
Like, there's no mention of him. The whole episode is about Johnny Storm not being in the groove of things, and then he meets a girl who happens to have the same powers as him, and then not only Ghost Rider, but Thor also shows up at the end of the episode.
yeah. And then they become friends with Galactus.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I will say though, like having not watched that version of the Fantastic Four in so long that I've forgotten most of it. It was kind of like a warm blanket wrapping that 90s
Yeah.
Marvel animation style, because I mean it is
Yeah.
I mean it is in the exact same style as the X-Men. Like,
Mhm.
it felt, it was like, oh, I actually after that went back and started rewatching it from the beginning. Like I knocked out a couple episodes. So
Mhm.
but yeah, it was
Yeah.
so random.
I don't know what to say about this this little cameo of Ghost Rider, because he shows up and he was like, I come whenever what is it that he says? He says something about like, I arrive whenever the innocent souls scream out or something like that.
And I mean, I'm not, like I said, I mean, I'm a fan of Ghost Rider, but I'm not an expert on him by any stretch of the imagination. So I
Mhm.
don't 100% know his power set. But I'm not sure in any form of Ghost Rider, except for this cartoon, his power set is single-handedly taking Galactus down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do know that he is, like, when you power rank all of the characters, some people rank him as like maybe the third strongest Marvel hero next to Hulk and Thor. And so I do know that he is considered one of the most powerful characters out there, but yeah, to just penance stare Galactus. I mean, I honestly just think Galactus just thumps him out of the way. It was a little, but again, powers aside and all that, just him just randomly appearing is just what throws me about this episode.
Yeah, it
Just
doesn't
out of the blue.
There's no lead up. There's no like, oh
Nope.
man, there's a man on a motorcycle, or the ghost. Yeah, the ghost will come, or no, it just shows up.
Yeah, because at least, and we'll get into his next appearance, but at least in his next appearance, you have at least a moment of there's this mysterious rider on a bike that's watching what's happening, and then you find out it's Ghost Rider. You didn't have that. You didn't have any kind of build up. He just shows up. Yeah, I don't know. I will do want to give a nod though to Thor being voiced by John Rhys Davies. I don't know if you were aware of that.
No, I missed that. I did have that Richard Grieco was.
Was Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
But no, John Rhys Davies voiced Thor, who, as many of course big nerds will know as Gimli from Lord of the Rings, but also he played Kingpin on the Trial of the Incredible Hulk TV movie.
Oh, that's right.
So, yeah.
He was also in that really underrated show Sliders.
Oh, I was a big fan of Sliders. I was a big. I don't think I watched it towards the later seasons when they replaced him with his own brother.
Yeah, that's when I kind of fell off too. But
yeah, but no, that was a good show. But speaking of the Incredible Hulk, that was Ghost Rider's next appearance. Almost a year later, in the Incredible Hulk animated series titled Innocent Blood was the episode, October 6, 1996. He actually is a main part of this story, kinda. He does show up. He thinks that Hulk is the villain, and so he goes after Hulk, but then you've got... Oh, I totally forgot his name now because he is one of the most annoying characters ever. Hulk's little buddy. Why is his name just completely slipped my mind? And I didn't.
I wanted to. I almost said Aaron Jones, but that's the running back for the Packers, and that's a different podcast. I know he eventually becomes Abomination.
Yeah. No, he doesn't become Abomination.
Oh,
he becomes A-Bomb. Yeah.
A-Bomb. Yeah.
Yeah. Rick Jones. There it is. Rick Jones. Rick Jones, voiced by Luke Perry. So not to diminish the great name of Luke Perry. Oh, but this Hulk animation I love because it's Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk.
Right.
Like he's the voice of the Hulk, and I love that. And Neil McDonough is Bruce Banner for the times that he's Banner. That's the other thing about the 90s. I mean, we've had episodes where we've talked about Batman the animated series, but you even look at shows like this, the voice acting in these shows.
Oh yeah.
It's just great.
If you go back to Fantastic Four and look through like their guest list or see who some of the villains were, like I forgot, or I didn't realize that Mark Hamill was doing more voiceovers than just the Joker.
Yeah,
because he was doing some of the stuff in Fantastic Four, and yeah. I mean, I looked through the cast list and I was like, wow, I can't believe these people were doing animation back then.
Yeah, it's really something. But let's get back to talking about let's talk about Ghost Rider in this. I did get a kick out of the fact that he's wearing a helmet and then the helmet burns away when he becomes Ghost Rider, and then when he turns back into human form, which I'm going to get into his human form in a second, when they turn it, the helmet comes back onto his head.
Well,
like, you notice? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. It's the same logic of the Hulk. I mean, he becomes this massive creature, but his pants stay on.
Yeah.
And then when he turns back into Banner, his clothes come back.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. I don't know. The helmet thing, I did read that apparently the helmet was not originally a part of the animation, but because of, all the helmet laws that were, I mean, you and I were both kind of young in the 90s.
Yep.
When the helmet laws were really coming in, they had to put in the helmet for at least when he was in human form.
it's a different company, but Batman in the 66 series, they had to have him put his seatbelt on and be like, buckle up, chum. Because
Yeah.
like too many kids were watching and they're like, well, Batman's not putting a seatbelt on.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta love when they gotta be good role models for the kids. But what did you think of this storyline with Ghost Rider kind of going after Hulk to begin with, and then
It was a
re-
little weird. I mean, I guess I've never known Ghost Rider to be that much of a vigilante. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it was kind of like they I also saw I think that the clearly the year before with Fantastic Four, like Ghost Rider must have gotten some traction somewhere.
hmm
I mean, the internet didn't exist
yeah,
or in a very, very small form, but it somehow must have resonated with the fans for them to bring back the exact same version of Ghost Rider and have Richard Grieco do it again. So, and I know we'll probably get there, but I think this must have been more of the idea of a backdoor pilot.
yeah. I wanted to talk about that, but we'll get to that in a minute. So, like I said, he had a little bit more of a story in this one, but he goes after Hulk, and then he turns on Talbot, who shoots shoots Hulk with some sort of tranquilizer gun. Yeah, Doc Samson is in this episode. The Leader is in this episode. Leader, another voice actor, Matt Frewer. I mean,
Yes.
oh, great voice there. Um, but yeah, this was another one where it was again, there was a story. It wasn't as random as his appearance in Fantastic Four, but it still just kind of felt like they just shoehorned Ghost Rider into this story. Like, did you not
Yeah, yeah,
feel?
you're
Yeah,
right. I mean, I haven't rewatched that version of Hulk in so long that I really don't remember it. So, like, and I didn't restart watching that, so I don't like, I don't know if in an episode before they're like, oh, there's some sort of Ghost Rider, like, when they did the Avengers movie and they like talked about Wakanda or
yeah,
something in the like Atlantic Ocean where they
yeah.
were clearly
No,
hinting, you know,
no.
I
Avi
don't.
Arad was not that intelligent when it came to him putting together these. He's not thinking that. They're
Yeah, that
thinking selling toys. That's what they're
right.
thinking.
Yeah, that'll like the Ghost Rider would be another cool toy to sell.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into what we were talking about. In both of these, both Fantastic Four and Incredible Hulk, Ghost Rider is voiced by Richard Grieco. You want to talk late 80s, 90s, action icon for TV, Richard Grieco. What did you think of his short little runs as this voice character? And do you honestly think that they were trying to test the waters for a Ghost Rider cartoon?
Absolutely, they were. 100% they were trying to. I think we also lived in that. It was coming off the big satanic panic of the 80s.
Yeah.
So I think that there was still some, can we get away with it? Because I mean, ultimately the
Yeah.
look of Ghost Rider, like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, is super cool. And it's gonna sell toys and it's gonna get eyeballs, but you're gonna have to kind of sanitize it and bring it down a little bit, downplay some of the
Yeah.
original origins. Comic
Which
books were already kind of like you could get away with a lot of stuff in comic
yeah.
books and
Which I think they were doing because I don't, again, I know you said you don't know an awful lot about the, deep dive into Ghost Rider. I don't think this was Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider.
no, it was Danny Ketch.
Yes.
I did
Yes.
read that. I did both of these versions were Danny Ketch, who was
Yeah.
after Johnny Blaze.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Because it's hard for me to remember. I know technically there was somebody before Johnny Blaze, but I don't know if that was a retcon.
Well, so the before Johnny Blaze, there was in the 60s, Marvel had a comic called Ghost Rider, but it was just a vigilante dude who wore like all white. And then they later changed his name to the Phantom Rider. So he had the moniker Ghost Rider, But the whole supernatural Ghost Rider, the Flaming Skull, all that, Johnny Blaze was the first one of those. The movie, which of course we'll cover later this month, the movie pays homage to the Phantom Rider, and that's who Sam Elliott's character is supposed to be representing.
Okay.
But in the comics, no. Johnny Blaze was the first Flaming Skull demon Ghost Rider.
Okay, yeah. So, because I know it went Blaze, Ketch, and then the other one that you'll get to
Robbie
with
Reyes.
Robbie
yeah.
Reyes, and now we're at Cosmic Ghost Rider, and
Yeah.
there's like 800 different Ghost Riders, but
Yeah. So for those who don't know who Danny Ketch is, as we said, he was the second Ghost Rider, or third by name, however you want to put that. He was actually Ghost Rider in the comics at this time. So it kind of fit. If you were reading the comics, it's Danny Ketch. His story is that when he was a teenager, he and his sister got wrapped up in a gang war with Death Watch had a gang, and I forgot the guy who was in the other gang. It's another one of those kind of B, C-list villains in Marvel. But they witness something happen. His sister makes a noise, which causes one of Death Watch's gang members to shoot her. And Danny takes her and drags her to a junkyard. And while in the junkyard, he sees a motorcycle. And there's a symbol on the motorcycle, which, if you remember, you saw this in The Incredible Hulk. And when it's glowing, and when he touches the symbol, it turns him into Ghost Rider. So I think that's where you were saying, where they would get by with the way they could do it in a cartoon, is it's just some mystical power that, when he touches it, he turns into Ghost Rider.
right.
And they kind of stay away from the whole selling your soul to the devil and that Johnny Blaze had. So I think that's the way they get rid of it. But this is definitely Danny Ketch, not just for that, but he was the first one to have the spikes as part of his costume, and the kind of the look of the bike, where the bike transforms as well. That was a Danny Ketch thing, because before this, Johnny Blaze's motorcycle was just Johnny Blaze's motorcycle. It just got the flames, on the tires as he drove, but it didn't look any different. It didn't have that sinister look the way that Danny Ketch's does when he turns into the Ghost Rider. So that's what I think. And it's Danny Ketch, as I mentioned earlier, who was the Ghost Rider during the New Fantastic Four. That was not Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. That was Danny Ketch.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way they would get away with it, was doing the Danny Ketch. I mean, it worked for Ant-Man in the movies. Let's just skip over Hank Pym and all the problematic stuff that associates with Hank Pym, and let's go straight to Scott Lang.
Yeah. Right. And that's how you did that. And also, not just the problematic stuff, it also kind of gets away from the fact that Hank Pym was one of the founders of the Avengers, and now you can just ignore all of that part of the history and move right on,
Yeah, and help create Ultron and all that jazz as well. But yeah, no, I definitely. Oh, and also a little history lesson for people. They later retconned it so Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze were actually long lost brothers. So
Of course
that
they
was
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, because comics.
Right.
They had to make it. They made it so that it was part of their bloodline. The reason they became the host for this, which there's a name to the demon that's supposedly possessing Johnny Blaze, and then it's Ketch that actually is called the Spirit of Vengeance. So the name that gets associated with Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, was actually the name of the entity, which man, I wish I wrote it down. It's something noble. It's actually a guy who ends up being Johnny and Danny's great grandfather or something, or his the brother of their grandmother or something like that. I can't remember the full story, but anyway, that's getting deep into the comic. But yeah, so I agree with you. I definitely think this was a backdoor pilot. We mentioned earlier Trial of the Incredible Hulk being a TV movie that was a backdoor pilot for a Daredevil show. So I do think this was them testing the waters of, could they do Ghost Rider. And unfortunately, this was already getting into the end of the 90s. I mean, this was 96, and it wouldn't be too long after that, like you and I talked about, that unfortunately animated shows like this just kind of dwindled away.
And that might have been more of why the Ghost Rider series never happened, because all of the Marvel animated stuff kind of ended. I mean, like Hulk and Fantastic Four only had like maybe 2 seasons, maybe.
Yeah, and I want to say the second
did, like,
season of Incredible Hulk was maybe only like 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of episodes listed for either of them on Disney Plus, where they have them all. Like, it's only like 20 something, maybe 30 something episodes each.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I know like X-Men the animated series was had wrapped up around this time. And really, you just had the DC shows, because Justice League would be early 2000s, like 2000, 2001. I think would be Justice League, and that really was kind of the last of those type of animated shows. That and Teen Titans, and then they god awful destroyed Teen Titans and made it the Teen Titans Go, which I'm not gonna say is not funny, but it's not it's not what we loved growing up.
No.
But Johnny Blaze would actually be a Ghost Rider. We would get him not too long ago, about 8 years ago, in Hulk and the Agents of Smash over on Disney XD. Episodes titled Spirit of Vengeance aired June 14th of 2015. And even though it's not said it's Johnny Blaze, I'm pretty sure this was Johnny Blaze's Ghost Rider.
Everything I read continually called him Johnny Blaze.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And yeah, he's again, he could have been Danny Ketch, but it felt more like Johnny Blaze's Ghost Rider. For a second, you probably could have argued it could have been a nod to Robbie Reyes, because Ghost Rider does randomly all of a sudden have a flaming car in this episode, which was a Robbie Reyes thing, but this is a more like a kind of a junker type car that all of a sudden he's like a hot rod type car.
Well, it seems to imply that the power of Ghost Rider is whatever vehicle he's in becomes, a flaming mobile of some kind.
Yeah, because he tries to convert the Hulk's little tank type thing at one point, doesn't he?
Yeah. He, like I said, it seems to be at least implied that his power is whatever he's driving takes on the Ghost Rider form.
Yeah. Speaking of his powers, what did you think about his ability to just completely remove the gamma radiation and hulking ability of Abomination?
In all of the episodes, I guess I didn't realize they had Ghost Rider that high in the pantheon of the power sets, because I was like, man, it seems like but again, the thing, I watched some stuff I was trying to find power set, and I watched some stuff on YouTube, and they were like the MCU, Ghost Rider, the Robbie Reyes version, is like, they were saying on par with like Captain Marvel as one of the most powerful. So I'm like, well, if they're doing that in the MCU, then clearly he must be that way in the comic as well. So I guess it makes sense that they were doing it in the cartoon, but it is so weird that like his power set is he can stare at Galactus and take him down. So why wouldn't he be able to just look at the Hulks and be like, your power is mine now, or burn out their gamma,
Yeah. It's weird too, though, that it looked like the power was coming from the sky. I'm like, aren't you kind of demon related? So I didn't quite understand how his power was like coming down onto them. But yeah, just completely. And I will say it made me kind of, because I remember watching Agents of Smash on Disney XD. I'm not saying I watched it like in a way that I maybe saw every episode in order and all, but it made me wonder, like, did they keep Abomination like this? Did they keep him human for the rest of the show?
No, I think they found a way to get him his power back, if memory serves. I was watching Agents of Smash. I must have lost it at some point. I know I got rid of cable a few years back, So I maybe that's when I lost it, or I just lost interest in the show because it was a little. I mean, it was definitely meant for people way younger than the,
Yeah,
late 30s that I was when that show was airing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely and what was the Spider-Man at the time? Was it the Spectacular Spider-Man that was the same type of
Yeah.
kind of animation and also having where they're like recording what A-Bomb is always recording a vlog
Yeah.
throughout the
Yeah, and that
the
that
show.
got a little, and I guess I mean, I just thought it was really cool to have a cartoon where you had Hulk, Red She-Hulk, Scar, A-Bomb,
Yeah.
Abomination, like you had them all. Like they just were like all of the Hulks.
Yeah.
And some
And again, great voice actors. Because you've got Eliza Dushku voicing She-Hulk. You got Seth Green as A-Bomb. You got Clancy Brown as Red Hulk, as General Ross.
which is great,
Oh,
great voice casting.
yeah. And then even though most people wouldn't recognize him from other things, but and I'm probably going to butcher his last name, but Fred Tassasori, who was the voice of Hulk, who had been the voice of Hulk for several things before this even. But he's also the voice of Ghost Rider for this episode. So
When in the pantheon of voice actors, I mean, I Tadashori, however you said it, I don't know.
again, I'm not 100%.
I couldn't find a pronunciation, so I apologize to him because I know he listens. But yeah, I mean, in the pantheon of voice acting, I mean, I don't know if it gets any higher than him. I mean, he does everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we'd be here for another 2 hours if we just started listing everything he ever did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to think of what's just a couple of things to mention, and there's just so much out there. I mean, he's done Teen Titans Go. He's done Looney Tunes stuff.
Right.
There's just yeah,
I
so
mean,
much. Pretty much anything that's ever aired on Cartoon Network, I'm pretty sure he
and
has
stuff
been a voice in it.
and it's not even like stuff that like requires like a Clancy Brown type voice. I mean, he's across the board. Like,
Yeah,
his voice work is not like instantly recognizable where you're like, oh, well, that's so and so.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, Clancy Brown, as much as I love his voice, I mean, listening to him as Red Hulk, I'm still hearing Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarity in that voice. So let me ask this. So that was 2015. And then we haven't seen anything animated wise,
Well,
but
there was that Avengers Assemble cartoon in 2018, non-speaking, where there was an army of Ghost Riders.
yeah.
And so very similar to the X-Men thing, where it was just like but which also made no sense. But it was just like, what? Why is that there? Like,
Yeah. But where I'm going is with Disney Plus, and you've got things, like What If that's doing this kind of animation type show, and you got the Marvel Zombies show that's coming. What do you think they could, if they really were getting animation going, could Ghost Rider work in today's?
absolutely. I mean,
Is that a way we introduce him to the MCU is through animation first?
possibly, or you could even go like the Hulu route, like they did with MODOK and Hitmonkey, where it's
Okay.
tangentially related to the MCU, but not really. I mean, because
Yeah.
you could get even more, not necessarily. When I say adult, I don't mean it in the dirty way, but in the more way of like animation for like kind of like the Family Guy or not
But
funny, but
But now
you could do
I was about to say, yeah, you're not
not
talking about making it a comedy.
no.
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about animation dedicated for people who are older. Not because most
So are you
people,
thinking like maybe the old, I don't know if you watched this, but the old Spawn cartoon from
yeah,
HBO?
something along those lines.
Okay.
Maybe not as
As
unnecessarily
dark.
dirt.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, dark, yes, but maybe not as unnecessarily dirty.
Yeah.
But But yeah, I mean, I would think maybe you could even do kind of like an anthology series where like one season you explore like the Phantom Rider, where you get the
Yeah.
Ghost Rider of the Old West, or a couple seasons of Johnny Blaze, and then a couple seasons of Danny Ketch, and then maybe at some point you do a couple, kind of like a Defender series where you all get them all together, because it's
What it?
animated, so you can
Yeah.
do whatever. Budget's not necessarily unlimited, but you're not limited by human physics at that point.
Well, so you said anthology, and I do want to keep this animated. I know a lot of people might want to talk about him being actually introduced as a real person, but I do want to keep this animated. What if, as an animation, what if they did something with the Midnight Suns?
I'd be on board with that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Oh, and I mean, as much as I like to see all of the Marvel stuff sort of interconnected and interrelated, when it comes to animation, I wouldn't necessarily think that you'd have to keep it.
No.
You could kind of do like a what if, like,
Yeah.
where you could animate something and do all the voices that aren't, the MCU voices, and have other people do it, because you can do different things with the characters and not, you know, confuse the timelines. That's why I'm saying like maybe move it over to Hulu and instead of Disney. That way you could also get maybe a little darker. Although Marvel Zombies is going to be
Yeah. Moral
interesting.
Zombie is going to be pretty dark. And hey, they could introduce him maybe in Marvel Zombies. I don't know how wide they're going to go with that storyline. So, um, we'll have to see.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, and it's there are things you can do animation wise that I don't know if they'd ever be able to do with the MCU, but they've done some things in the MCU that I didn't think they were ever going to be able to do. So
Yeah, I definitely. Again, I'm excited. I'm excited for maybe what might happen with Ghost Rider in the MCU, but that's a story for another day. We're going to talk about the Nicolas Cage movies this month, and we're going to talk about Robbie Reyes' version of Ghost Rider that appeared on television with Agents of Shield. But let's go ahead and wrap up this conversation about Ghost Rider in animation. Is a great way to start things off. We got a history lesson about Danny Ketch, and I mean, when else are we going to get to talk about that version of Ghost Rider? And we'll hit Johnny Blaze and Robbie Reyes throughout the rest of this month. So hey, we're hitting them all, and that's exactly what we're wanting to do with this March Madness, and give you a deep dive into Ghost Rider. But thank you, Nicholas, for joining me for this episode and this look into Ghost Rider in animation.
thanks for letting me do some little nerdy conversation that I don't otherwise normally get to have. So
That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. And hey, everybody out there, join us for this nerdy conversation. Let us know in the reviews what you think about the show. Join us on social media and comment and tell us what your thoughts are. We'd appreciate it all. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thank you again, Nicholas, for joining us, and thank you everyone for listening. But for today, for Moving Panels, I'm Laramie Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.